This is Family Twist, a podcast about astonishing adoption stories and finding family via DNA magic. I'm Kendall.
And I'm Corey, and we've been inseparable partners in life since 03, 04, 05, also known as March 4th, 2005.
In January 2018, our found family journey took us 3,000 miles from the San Francisco Bay Area to New England, where we now live near my biological father, two half siblings, and their families. We love being near them all, and the adventure continues.
Thank you for joining us again on Family Twist. Our guests this episode are Marissa Sullivan and Carol Simpson, who are going to share their very unique found family story. Welcome to the podcast, Carol and Marissa, or should I say sisters, Carol and Marissa? And how does that sound?
Yay! Thank you. Our first intro, Carol. How awesome.
Yeah.
Is it weird to be referred to as sisters?
Um, Not really. Carol was like she literally signed her first email. I think your sister. She was very because some people can be kind of weird about it at first, and it's maybe awkward. But like she was just Care Bear full, her arms fully extended out. Your sister Carol. She was and she also had more time to process it because she knew months ahead of me, and she can fill you in on that part. And yeah, she just made me. We both just kind of warmed up pretty easily to each other.
Excellent, excellent. So, to get started, how I found out about you two was I read the article on today.com that Marissa wrote, and it was like, wow, this definitely seems like a good fit, for Family Twist. I think the thing that struck me immediately was the first photo I think in the article is of your parents when they had just gotten married, and your dad's got this great grin on his face, and he's smoking a joint.
Yes, he had that rascal look on his face, and and we forget now that it's getting legalized everywhere, but that was pretty like badass and kind of back then that was still pretty
Right,
crazy. That's like
right, yeah.
doing hard drugs in front of somebody to a certain extent.
Right. Right, and he just like had the devil may care look on his face, like, hey, I just got married and this is happening, so deal with it.
I see that look on Carol's face, my face, our brother Mike. I think it's carried on for forever. that sheepish little grin.
So in that article, you talk about how tough it was to lose your dad at such a young age, and how you and your brother dealt with it differently, and that you'd always wished you'd had an older sister, Marissa. So let's talk a little bit about how that happened. How years later you found out you did have an older sister.
Yeah. So yeah, for the sake of the story, a colleague of mine, Rachel, wrote it. It was kind of like an as told, and my story's so complex. So for her to digest everything and do such a great job, but unfortunately, a lot had to be cut down because nobody's gonna read. Like a series. Nobody's gonna sit there and read my series online. Um, so she did a great job digesting. But I did just want to throw out that we do have other siblings. My dad had a his firstborn son was Tim Jr. He is still alive. He wasn't so much in our lives, so that's why she focused primarily on Michael and I, because it was just the two of us with my mom Marion and Tim in the house. The others were older. My dad he had a couple of adopted kids, Danny and Andrea, and our older brother Tim, who's a half brother. It was just too complex. It just didn't make sense to tell. But I just wanted to make sure that they all got a proper shout out. And I also have a stepbrother and stepsister as well. So it was just one of those things that the story just focused on Carol, my brother, and I. But I just wanted to say that because that's important to us. So anyways, yeah. I think I'd actually told Rachel. I read when I was young. I read those like Sweet Valley High twin books, and I didn't even want to. Okay, not only did I want a sister because I'm such a little brat, I wanted like a twin sister. Like I just wanted, I just thought it'd be so cool. I had always wanted like a twin, so I thought, yeah, I was just I did. I did want a sister. My brother and I have this. We still have this. We still fight like crazy in a way, but we kind of we fought a lot. Like we were. I grew up kind of pretty much a little brute, a little tomboy, and yeah, it's like I feel like in a way, like sometimes, like my mom was my sister and my friend and my mom, and yeah, I did want a sister. So I can't wait. And sorry. Do you know that meme, you guys, that goes around and that was going around on social media like a year or two ago? It said like if your dad had shoes that look like this, you probably have other siblings out there, and there were these like obnoxious like white leather pimp daddy loafers, and I literally said to myself, I'm like, I bet I do. I'm like, I literally, I almost wasn't like, I almost wasn't shocked, to be honest. But I was, yeah, I was so as a journalist, I'm the one covering these stories, and to have this happen to me was it just stopped me in my tracks for a bit.
I think you posted that, and I had seen that too, so, probably before I had even reached out to you. So it was kinda like that little internal joke too, like, "Yes, you do have other siblings."
Yeah, no, exactly. And honestly, I went to go look for myself because Carol was really well versed in all the genealogy. She had been studying it, and she had, checked. She had, what is it, dotted her I's, crossed her T, whatever the phrase is. But she had done some heavy research, runs in the family, and I trusted her. But of course, I wanted to see for myself, especially as a journalist, I had to verify. So I did the test through Ancestry. And lo and behold, same exact results. We had a stronger tie than my mom, like my Aunt Peggy, my mom Marion's sister was on there. Carol and I had a stronger connection than even like my aunt. So that, it was just obvious that she was indeed Tim Sullivan's firstborn daughter. What?
So Carol, let's talk a little bit about the fact that you knew that you had a sibling out there, and knew who it was or discovered who it was, but you waited a little while to get in touch. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So, my discovery happened really during the pandemic, and everything slowed down for us. And I think if it weren't for that, I might not have paid as much attention to what I was seeing. But when I opened the results and there were all of these Irish surnames, I knew that something was amiss, and I was going to have to do some research. And using Ancestry and a couple of other sites, I was able to first get in contact with our uncle in Ireland, our uncle Jack, and so from there he did confirm that, yeah, Tim's my uncle, Tim's your dad, and we started talking about Marissa and Michael, and I had told him then that I don't think it's a good time to reach out to Marissa while she was going through her chemo treatments. I didn't want to bring about a shock or do anything that might create a whole tailwind in her treatment, create stress. Little did I know that it wouldn't have bothered her like one bit. And so Uncle Jack and I decided to not tell anybody in the family until we knew that she was at least doing better and healthier. And so I stalked her for a little while, and she posted quite a bit, and I thought, oh my gosh, that's my sister. She's such a rock star. I can't wait. And then I told Uncle Jack, and he's very lyrical. I said, okay, you tell me when you think the time is right that I should reach out. And he dropped these little clues to Marissa and to me both, and so I figured out that, okay, now's the time to reach out. And so I had sent Marissa an email, and then she followed up with a phone call. And I remember when she called, I was in the car with my daughter, and I recognized her phone number, and I answered, hello, sister. And I hear this laughing, and we're laughing, and her mom is with her. You guys were on your way to the airport to go pick up Michael. And thankfully, Marion took control of the whole conversation and kind of steered us in a logical, like, how did we get to where we were? And bless her heart, I couldn't ask for a better, I call her stepmom now, a better stepmother. She's just amazing.
Wow, that's wild that's the first conversation. You're in the car with your mother going to pick up your brother, and you hear from your father's firstborn daughter.
And she's not the best driver, and we were on the freeway, like going over the
Oh
St.
boy.
Petersburg, the St. Petersburg like suicide bridge, and she was, yeah, she knew nothing of it at all, and we to the oh Carol and I have this is breaking news. Carol, I she heard from one of our dad's best friends on Facebook, and he did not know. So there's a chance that Tim did not know that you and you could tell that side of the story if you're comfortable, but just so you know, um yeah, my mother, she wasn't aware because sometimes people keep those secrets. Nobody
Right.
Mhm.
knew about Carol. I don't think Tim, our dad, even knew, which, I don't want to speak for
Mm.
Carol, but that's the hardest part about, like, did this dad of mine know or not,
Mhm.
So
Right. Right. Wow.
So, um at the time, so when my mom and our dad met, it was my mom describes it, she was selling magazines and was at a gas station, and this black sports car came rolling up into the gas station, and this man jumped out, and she said, and the doors of the car opened up um sideways, like a DeLorean. So I think it was his friend's DeLorean that he
oh
was
my
driving, and so, they started chatting each other up. My mom sold him $75 worth of magazines. He got her phone number. She made her quota, so she went out drinking with her girlfriend, and eventually, they met up and were going out. But she didn't know that he was already married, until she got pregnant, and then realized, well, this isn't going to work. Obviously, they're both from Catholic families. So that's when my mom moved on from Chicago to Kansas City. So it's hard to say who knew what and when. That was so long ago. But that is amazing that your mom was able to reach out to him, and he didn't know either, because we had a lot of questions, like who might have known in his circle of friends. And
yeah, like,
um
did our dad take it to his grave to, like, but but I would think his best friend, and Carol wasn't the guy that was with him. I'm trying to find. I found his wife. We're both like little stalktresses. um, but yeah, so that's, I don't know. I just hope that's of some comfort, because it's one thing, and like, I don't want to speak for Carol again, but to it's one thing for someone to choose not to have you in your life, but if they think that, like, if they don't even know that you
Right.
exist, I don't know if
yeah.
it's harder. I mean, it's like a double-edged sword, but I would think it would make you feel a little bit better that he
Mhm.
didn't just completely turn his back.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's so common. We've heard so many stories now about you know people not knowing, not having any idea. It's just, and now it's you can't keep secrets anymore with DNA because DNA does not lie.
Oh my
But
god.
going back decades, of course, we didn't have this consumer technology, and it's all coming out now.
Yeah, I was
So
shocked we didn't have any. We probably will find out eventually, as more and more people upload their DNA. We could
We
have some
joke
more
about it.
Carols out
There's
there.
probably more.
Yeah.
I keep thinking I'm going to get one of those emails from Ancestry too. Haven't had any surprises in mine, but I think my dad and Tim could have been pals. Let's just put it that way. They seem like really social, jovial,
Mhm.
fun-loving guys who like people, and Yeah, so I'll just
This
leave
is
it at that.
60s. I mean, not to like, I just think it was just a different time. Even now, I mean,
Right,
the things that people are doing behind closed doors, that's why I try to do my part to, I try to normalize all, like, I'm pretty open about any kind of weirdness or shadiness in my life because everyone has it and they all feel
right.
like they're harboring this guilty secret. And I feel like it affects your health so badly. And that's why I just, I tell so much truth that people think I'm actually like joking because 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 they wouldn't expect someone like me to share some of the things that I do, and I'm like, no, like I just have no, I don't have any shame really, you know.
Well, it makes you a better journalist too, Marissa. I mean, if I think if people are like, well, with she's willing to be an open book, and this forthcoming, you probably get people to drop their guard, your subjects and stuff, and
Oh my, you have no, yeah, you can only imagine, but yeah, they drop their bombs pretty quickly
yeah.
with me. Give me like 2 minutes with somebody, I'll get to like the nucleus of their core.
That's great. I mean, that's what makes a great journalist. So,
Thanks.
and I always say kudos to the people who are still working in journalism because I just consider myself semi-retired. I mean, this is obviously a form of journalism, but it takes a unique individual and a particular skill set to make a career out of it. So, hats off to you
Thank you.
for
Yeah, I took a
doing it.
break during, when I was going through cancer and stuff because I just didn't care about anything or anyone else but myself. I was a proud, selfish person because I'm like, I don't care. None of this matters right now
Mhm.
because I may not be here. And so, I was still, I still like love the support I got from everyone, and but just it just put so many things in perspective. I just didn't, just so many trivial things, and
Right.
I just want to teach people like not to be morbid, but it's like any day could be, this could happen to any of us, like any day
Right.
could be our last. So I've always just seized the day. Like Tim, unfortunately he had a he did evade death quite a few times though. I don't think it didn't make it into the article, but he survived a small plane crash in San Diego.
What?
He was on the, I saw with my own eyes the the newspaper. It was like a local newspaper. It was on the cover. There's some, just a bunch of ruins, and he just walked off like scot free. He just was doing, he's got all sorts of things. My mom said he like lit himself on fire, like jump in the water. He'd hang from bridges. He'd race. That was in there. He raced just anything that moved, horses, cars, boats. So the fact that he made it that far was actually pretty impressive.
Right. Wow. So,
But
Carol,
that's what
can
everybody I've met says about him. You know, Aunt Peggy, my mom, your mom, Uncle Jack, um, you know, Uncle Jack's wives, they've all said you would have loved him. He was so full of life, so full of energy that and when they talk about him, their faces light up. And that's what is so amazing, to have that kind of a legacy that people 3 decades later, 4
Yeah.
decades later, their faces still light up when they remember him and talk about him. And so I already knew I had like these little nuggets, little pieces from everybody that I talked to about what an amazing man he was. I wish I could have met him, and I'm fortunate that I get to know him through Marissa, because I think she must be so much like him. That's she's probably the closest I'll ever get.
yeah.
I'm stuck with you,
That
right?
is pretty true. I do have a fearlessness, maybe not quite to his level. But I was like that when I was younger, like big time. I'd be cackling on the back of someone's motorcycle at 14. They'd be doing like a wheelie down the street with my long hair dragging on the street, and I'm like, woohoo! So I had no fear then. I'm a little more, I'm a bit more careful. I think I'm verbally bold, but I don't, the hard parting habits that were kind of somewhat like Tim are done. I grew up with a lot of those, but never an like addictive type thing, but like kind of the hard partying, burning the candle lifestyle, and so
Sure.
I chilled out on that. Just age, cancer, COVID, you name it. Learning your
Right.
lesson multiple in multiple directions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Carol, was the reason that you did a DNA test because you had some questions about parentage, or were you just doing it for curiosity? What led you down that path?
Um, I was talking to my daughter about our German heritage and what I thought was our German heritage, and I remembered that she had taken a DNA test, her and my son and stepkids, and I said, "Hey, well, let me see your results there." And so we opened up her ancestry, and I'm like, "Who's all these O's and Macs and Shays?" And my daughter's like, "What is that?" And I go, "Those are Irish surnames." There's like nobody German on here, at least, by surname. And she goes, "What's that mean?" I go, "It means I'm getting a DNA test." And if it weren't for the O's and the Macs and the Shays, I probably would not have done that. And that just random conversation. And it just probably wasn't time for us to find these things out earlier, but like towards the end of my career and after what Marissa had gone through and life slowed down during the pandemic, I think that was the time. That was the time to research and learn and reinvent yourself. And the timing was just right after that. Maybe we wouldn't have seen all of the hints that were out there before in our hectic lifestyles, but
Mm.
because of all this, we were really forced to slow down and take notice and
Yeah,
and
we've
figure
all been
out what this.
searching for,
Mhm.
like comfort, going back, all this nostalgia, even in TV and film right now. There's all this nostalgia to you know, the back back then before all this craziness took over.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think there is a sense of just people are just going back and wanting to learn more and just do anything to go back in time to avoid
Right.
this crazy world that we're getting that we're
We're
thrust
still in
into.
it. Yes, we're still in
Yep.
it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, it certainly gave us time to reflect,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been a insane few years. So wow. So Carol, was it a surprise then that I mean, was it the parental situation? Was that a surprise, or if you're comfortable talking about that, like what was your situation growing up? What was your family like?
So when my mother left Chicago, she ended up in Kansas City, and that's where she met the man who I thought was my father. He knew he knew I wasn't his child, but he also knew the stigma back then, and he back then to be a single mother with a child, especially Catholic, that was the worst thing ever. And so he put a name on my birth certificate. He gave me a father, as far as my mom's family was concerned. They're from upstate New York, and now my mom's in Kansas City. So they didn't know the whole story. And he passed away in 2004.
Mm,
And when my mom finally came clean with me about everything, she said that your father John said thank you for not telling Carol the truth because I got to be a part of her life. And then that kind of made everything okay. So,
yeah.
the why didn't you tell me? Why didn't, she would have taken it to her grave, had I not found out. And for good reason. So I can certainly forgive her. I can certainly forgive the situation that she was in at the time. She would have had to have go live with the nuns and I would have been adopted out. And this was a way that she saved me from whatever would have come from that. So I have to be thankful to her for the decisions that she made. And she's very, very happy that Tim's family has welcomed me with open arms. She said, "That is just amazing. You would have loved him."
Oh.
That's great. Carol, do you have half siblings from your mother and stepfather?
Yes.
Okay.
So, my younger sister that I grew up with, thinking that was my full sister, so now this is my half sister, and so that created some a little bit of tension there. Um, so my younger sister said, "Well, I always knew you had a different father." And on the inside, I'm thinking, "Yeah, I did too somehow."
Hmm.
You just kind of look back and you're like, there's like I'm not like everybody else for some reason. And then my father, who I thought was my father, had remarried and had a son. So I grew up thinking that's my half brother, but he's not related at all. So our dynamic changed a little bit, but we brought it all back in. We had this candid discussion that said, no, wait, we'll always be family. And I'm thankful, and I love the family I grew up with, but I also love the family that I'm getting to know and to learn about. And so my younger sister just yesterday said, she goes, "Yeah, I went back and read that article that Marissa had," and she goes, "I love her already." So I thought that was so sweet for her to say that. So it's some of that tension. Well, most of that tension has went away.
Good. Well, family has a million different definitions. It means so many different things today. I mean, we all have, people, we all have our blood relatives, and, the people, our close friends that we consider family, our chosen family. It just
Right.
runs the gamut. There's no, whatever 1950s Leave It to Beaver, kind of thing. That just doesn't
Exactly.
exist
Yeah.
anymore. And it was kind of a facade even then, as we're finding out, all these things, all these secrets, coming to light with DNA technology. So, wow. So, Carol, what were you kind of hoping for, when you did the test? Like, were you thinking like, oh, maybe there will be siblings out there? Or what were your hopes and dreams with this?
To find out who my biological father was and to get to know my siblings, like blood siblings that are out there. And um, we joke about there could be more. And I think I think Marissa's in agreement. If we found somebody, we I don't think anything could hold us back trying to reach out and say, "Oh my gosh, there's another sister, there's another brother. How exciting."
Calm down. They have to be cool like you. I'm
They
the
would
tougher
be.
one. I'm
They
the
would
tougher
be.
critic.
They would
Carol's like the
be.
Care Bear for everyone. I'm like, all right,
Yeah,
slow
yeah. I'm
down
the
there,
optimist.
sissy.
How did you two start to bond? I mean, that first conversation must have been pretty wild, with your mom in the car, Marissa. But beyond that, like, how do two sisters who haven't known each other their entire lives start to bond?
Well, since I came from during lockdown when I finished treatment and everything. I drove across country. I left LA after like 20 years. Um, Miss it, but it was, served a purpose. Who knows if I'll be
Sure.
back, but I still go back for work and stuff. But anyways, I was in Florida. Where my mom is in Bradenton, Sarasota. I was living in St. Pete for the year, and so I was fairly close to where she was going up to visit her son and now his wife, and they just had a little baby. Carol's a grandma of two. She was going to visit them outside of Charlotte. They live outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, and I just so happened to be going to Charleston in South Carolina, and I'm like, you know what? I was gonna just drive because I'm like, you know what? Why fly? I love driving, and it's still kind of pandemic-y territory. So I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I'll just drive, like whatever. So I took my Jeep all the way up to North Carolina, and I met up with Carol and her son DJ, and this is like the coolest part. Like I said, like I had to see it for myself for the test. Like Carol's like, oh, XYZ. I did all the research. Definitely do it yourself, and I need to see for myself, so I did. But it was when I met her son, and I could see a little of Carol in Tim's firstborn, Timmy, who's around the same age as her. But her son DJ looks just so much like our brother Mike, and like
Mm,
specifically our dad Tim.
yeah.
So when he walked in, yeah, that's when I started tearing up because I'm like, okay, this is like for reals. So yeah, we had the best night. We went to an Irish bar. We went to this cool rooftop for a drink, and then we went to this Irish bar, and everyone loved our story so much, and we were so happy and like singing every song together. Carol and I had all the same favorite rock songs, like White Snake and all these '80s like weirdo songs, and everyone loved our story so much that I don't even think we paid for a drink the entire night. Like we had the whole bar just entertained, and we have all these videos from the night. It was pretty epic. It was a lot of fun. There was no doubt there was another like check. Okay. White Snake comes on. She's like, here I go again. I'm like, this is my song. She's like, this is my song. And I'm like, what? I'm like, this is the song that I played when I moved to LA. This is the song I played when I moved to New York. Like, this is my song. And she's like, no, 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 this has always been my song. So it's our song. Just like little things like that were coming up. Um, that were just, just little crazy little coincidences from two sisters who didn't know each other.
Yeah, I remember. Let me
That's
see
great.
your eyes. Okay, they're kind of like mine, but they're a little bit lighter. Let me touch your hair. Let me,
We have one
But yeah,
side that's droopier than the other, our eye. Like,
yeah, yeah.
so we have that, and she's got more of this little drawl from Kansas. Where are you, Kansas City? My Chicago accent, thankfully, has gone a little away, but it comes out when I'm drinking. But it's mellowed out back in LA. But now I'm in Queens, New York, so I sound like oh my God. I'm like nauseating when I have a couple in me. I'm like, oh my God, this accent is coming out. It's like, who am I?
I love it. I love it. So from that first meeting, was it like a conversation like, I know we're going to be close, or like let's make plans, or how does the relationship, like how do you further that relationship beyond that initial meeting?
Well, I think the next day um we got up and we drank beer the next morning, and
Hmm.
little hair of the dog that bit us,
We had some
Sure.
moonshine as
and
well.
had some moonshine. Yep, yep.
Yeah.
And we sat outside and we kind of got to know each other, and our backgrounds, how different it was growing up for each of us. Some of our
Yeah.
experiences might be similar, some are very different. Me being in the Midwest, and Marissa being bi-coastal. So yeah, there's some similarities, but a lot of differences. But I think there's a lot of I don't know, character things that are probably very similar, even growing up separately. Definitely the drive, and the need to succeed and be at the top of our game. That became evident early on, and both having empathy, and trying to understand where each other came from. So it did it did not even feel forced at all. It was just like, okay, this is my sister, it's
Right.
What I
Well,
love most about Carol, oh sorry, just real
no, no,
quick,
please go ahead.
what I love most about Carol is like I feel like innately we're both like truly like I feel like we're good people. Like we are good people, we're morally good people, want to do the right thing. But does she accept a little bad behavior, and has she participated in some as well? Hell yeah. So I would
Well,
say things and she would not even flinch. So that I think is great because I truly love people, and we all have met them. We meet them out. We meet people who are a little stuffy, and maybe we're like, oh, they're probably not gonna, they're not gonna be so keen on this story I'm telling or whatever. And then they surprise you, and they have a little glimmer in their eye or a little smile. People can be different and still kind of be appreciative of of another person's different side. But like she was, yeah,
absolutely.
she was non-judgy at all, and I really appreciated that. And she let some bombs drop from her youth as well, and we just, yeah, we were just both very open. And out of the two of us, though, I feel like she definitely is the more of the older sister. She's definitely more like the nurture. I think I'm a nurturer. I just like for a while I didn't have time to nurture anyone or anything. Like even myself. Like my life has crumbled in all areas like so many times. Not only was I going through cancer, but I was going through like a divorce, and I'm really vocal. Like it was in the wake of like a pregnancy loss, and like you just name it. I just had so many things coming at me, just from like the career changes to like relationship changes to cross country moves, then Florida to New York, and then just just God, I just feel like my life is just always, anytime it's settled, I feel like the tablecloth gets pulled out. Like I'm used to, unfortunately, I'm used to it. Fortunately, unfortunately, because I'm quite resilient. I almost like thrive on it. Like I thrive on that challenge. So I'm just hoping that I finally feel like at ease and at peace, and it's a nice feeling. So I finally got over my like self sabotage ing phases. There's multiple, and yeah, so hopefully I am focused, and hopefully my life has settled down enough to where I do have more time for my family and for Carol. But everyone isn't, she's been very understanding. I always just say please don't take it personal, because I was like, I moved to New York. I think I lost my job. I quit a job last year because of my moral standards that I was just talking about. I was just like, oh, I don't like how this feels here. It's toxic. I quit with like $0 to my name, and and I didn't look back. It was terrifying, but and that's what I try to always teach people. It's like, and then these other doors opened up, and I started working for like a top tier magazine, and
Right.
um so yeah, you kind of just have to take that leap sometimes and not have that safety net. So
Absolutely. No, I totally relate. I mean, that's, we Kendall and I have moved across the country twice now
I
on
heard
whims,
that, yeah, in
essentially,
on your
and
episode.
yeah, the second time, being because we found his family. So it's, I totally get it. And it's like, I don't know exactly what I believe, as far as like fate and spirituality and stuff like that goes, but it sounds like a big sister came along at just the right time for you, Marissa.
Right, oh my god, it just made me tear up a little. And that was exactly the angle, like that was why, like the Today Show, like I pitched like a year ago, I think. And then my friend emailed me, my friend, former colleague, and she's like, hey, do you still want to do that story, like I don't but finding your sister? And that was that was just evident, I think. Like it was kind of like this like light at the end of the tunnel, like the rainbow over like this horrible just like get knocked down one after time after time. And then all of a sudden, just dealing with the pain and loss of my dad, and then Carol all of a sudden like magically appears. It's kind of like, yeah, I can't be here for you, but voila, here's a sister who can be there for you when I'm not.
So, Carol, you touched on something that I wanted to revisit, and that's, I think, people in situations like you two are in, or people that are in situations where it doesn't turn out so nice. I think having that empathy and understanding is really important, because when somebody either thrusts a discovery in your face, or it's a mutual thing that both parties are looking on an ancestry or 23andMe, it's you still don't know exactly what to expect. So I think approaching every new relationship with that degree of understanding and empathy is really important. And it sounds like you two have that in spades. Not everybody does, unfortunately.
I feel so fortunate. Like you said, I've seen so many stories where people tried to reach out and were rejected by their biological families because maybe it was a secret that family members wanted to keep secret. So there's always that
Yeah.
risk. But I will say I did get some help from the research team at MyHeritage, and they said you have to reach out to your sister, um, and maybe throw caution to the wind. And looking back, I should have heeded their advice, but um, I just made the decision to wait until I knew Marissa was better. And even then, I wasn't quite sure like how would this be received. So of course, I'm ecstatic that my biological family was there for me and receptive to that.
Right.
So I wish everybody could have that same experience that I had.
Well, Carol, I think you made a very respectful choice because, as you said, who knows what the reaction would have been, and you didn't know Marissa as a person at the time, so it's like you didn't want to have her, all of a sudden experience a setback from her recovery by kind of throwing this wrench into her life. So, you couldn't know. So I think you made the right decision. It sounds like Marissa would have been thrilled to hear from you, no matter whatever she was going through in life. But
Marissa was partying in Hollywood, like after each chemo, like on Friday. Well, until things got a little heavier. But my doctor was like, "Go for it." It's not, and I don't like to promote it, but have a, I just was, I have this, I started this charitable business called Breast Cancer Bandit. I've always been this like bandit's one of my favorite words because it just describes me. And I don't really go about life like, I've always been a nonconformist. Maybe not on the surface, but I've just always kind of had my middle fingers up. And, I just don't, I believe in balance. And it's like, I don't believe in following all these rules and living, what if those were my last days? I wanted to go to a little party, dress up, put on makeup. So I try to help other survivors kind of like, I don't tell them like, go out and drink, but I do tell them like, don't be afraid to kind of, make yourself feel better, get dressed up, try to like go out and see how you feel. Don't feel don't feel guilty. Don't plague yourself. It's that whole like the guilt thing. Oh, I had a drink. Like, oh, who cares? Like, eat some vegetables the next day. Like, so, so yeah, I would have totally been like, I would have been so receptive to her, but I do just that alone just speaks volumes, as you said. Um, and and I identified that immediately. And everyone I tell the story to, when I was talking to, when I did the today.com piece, immediately the interviewer was like, "Oh my god, your sister is an amazing person." Like she immediately picked up on that, like without even me prompting, and she just like went on and on like how like amazing that just signifies such an amazing
yeah,
person. And that's who Carol is. Because some people wouldn't think that way. And there's nothing wrong with that if they don't, but that's how much depth that Carol does have. And and from my side, um, I'm so much of an empath that like for me, because I felt I was living through it. I was just so like in a way I was happy, but I was sad for her because for me it's like, oh, I've had my entire life to mourn my father, our father, and like for me it was fun. I have a sister. Oh my god, I just finished cancer. I'm a survivor. Now I have a sister. And Carol has just found out that her dad has passed is not the dad she thought that he was.
right,
And like and then she has another dad and finds out he died. Not only does she find out that he's dead too, he died of AIDS back in the 80s. Like what the f,
right,
like
right.
so. And I was just thinking of it. I was just like, God, I wanted to hold her hand, like because I can't even imagine all of that. And she's dealt with it so wonderfully, I think. And she's like she said about her mom, she had that kind of, she never will have that full closure, but that partial closure that her mom gave her, like just saying like how, you know, her dad she grew up with was just like, thank you for never telling her, because he truly wanted to be that
Right.
guy. And so it just shows that how much he truly loved her. So hopefully that provides solace and forever for Carol.
Well, and now she has you, right?
Yes. When I'm not going through crisis. No, I'm
Well,
just
I mean,
joking.
it's but
Um,
that's why you're there for each other, right? I mean, now you've got a larger support system.
Yeah, and we had a girls' weekend at so she came and met my mom, who's like, oh my god. You think me and Carol are like empath, like Care Bear, warm, nurturing people? My mom is just like, oh my god. She's like the baby whisperer. She's just always like hugging people and like stroking their hair. Like she's just beaming with love and rainbows. She's so sweet, and she like she fully embraced Carol. We had such a great time. And yeah, with all the craziness going on, like we don't get to see each other as often as we'd like, but we are definitely due sort of, the pace so far has probably been, hopefully like two outings like a year, hopefully more. Um, now that I'm a little more settled. And we want to meet up in Chicago, of course. And I'll let you can tell the story of meeting our brother Mike, who's featured in the article. I call him Hunter because he used to hunt boyfriends that was older boyfriends I was dating. So I call him Hunter, but everyone else calls him Mike. And we're gonna have a little family reunion, hopefully with our Uncle Jack, who lives in Dublin, by the way. We didn't get into that, but and when Carol says he's lyrical, she's like not even. That's almost like that's like understating
He's
it.
a
He
leprechaun.
speaks in like limerick.
Yes.
He's like a real life leprechaun. He was emailing me all these cryptic like he really is truly the most colorful writer. And I was like, Uncle Jack, what are you saying? He's just like, he sounds like a Lucky Charms commercial. And it was like, and then he finally, like, I was like, wait, what? Who? Do you have a long lost cousin? Like, who is this person? Who are you talking about? And then, like, he's just speaking in circles almost and riddles.
From the heavens above, and yeah,
I
it's
know. And then, God, he's awesome. He's just entertaining as all hell. But hopefully we can all Carol went on a quest to Ireland by herself and stayed with Uncle Jack for like a month or
Oh,
Mhm.
so,
wow.
and had a chance to kind of, have that moment of kind of chasing her family, since our dad is no longer here, to see where the ancestors came from.
Uncle Jack has 12 kids, and we've met, like, Marissa, you've met them all, but in that
I've
one,
met like 11. I
yeah,
think I have one more to
yeah,
go.
you have what? I've met 9, I think, 9 out of the 12. So, still working on the rest as well.
Wow,
It's a
that's
great
great.
trip.
Well, I was going to suggest that the three of us meet up in New York for a night, but now I'm thinking we almost like if you when you guys do your trip to Ireland together, I want to tag along.
Yeah,
Yes, we
yeah.
should. We should start our own, like, Carol should be hosting like a genealogy like, she really knows so much about it. She studied so much about it. But yeah, some people aren't open to it. But can you imagine, for the people that who are receptive to it, how wonderful of a gift it is? And we talked about this. For me, from a health writer standpoint, um, Carol wouldn't have known that a sister had breast cancer,
Right.
Right.
which is obviously so important for a woman.
For sure. For
She
sure.
didn't know any cancer, any sort of breast cancer was in her family. So that alone is like a big push for people that they should get out there and, suck it up, drink a glass of wine, take a deep breath, and see what's going on out there.
Right. And you never know. You never know. And it's, fortunately we've had, more happy stories on the podcast than we have not happy stories.
Oh, good.
It's, people are connecting every day and, it's not always going to be fairy tale ending, or whatever,
Yeah.
but it's
Mhm.
like Kendall and I certainly say all the time, well, the good has so outweighed the bad. And on the days where we're out shoveling snow here in missing California, we could think like, all right, but we did this for a reason. We're here for your family.
Kendall's parents sound like gems. Oh my God. Are they still with us?
So yes, his dad is here in New England, and he's got his half brother and half sister from his dad here in New England. Then Kendall has another half brother in the Carolinas, and then on his mom's side, his birth mother is still alive. He's got three siblings on that side. So unfortunately, he is not connected with his birth mother. She's certainly aware of the situation, but I won't dig into that for this episode again. But it's just that hasn't worked out yet. But who knows what will happen in the future. But yeah, it's been great. Yes, we miss California every day, but we're happy to be here.
I know. I call Los Angeles is like a drug addict, like ex-boyfriend that you miss. That's like kind of fun. He's fun, but he's not good for you, and it's best to stay away. But you just miss him and love him, and God, it is that love for me. It always has been. I love music so much. I was living in the neighborhood where, like, like Jim Morrison played by at the Whiskey, and like Marilyn Monroe lived in a house across the street from me. There's nothing that will fill that like mystique. There's something about like the Laurel Canyon, the vibes there, and I'm not
Yeah.
feeling it here. I'm not a punk girl, so or hip hop really, aside from like some Cleveland, like some Bone Thugs and some
Yep.
Midwest old school hip hop jams. But I'm more of like that West Coast, Sunset Strip, rock and roll kind of girl.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I miss. And so, but we get to go back, and it'll be there. It'll always be there.
It'll always be there for sure. Yeah, we're setting our sights either on retiring there or retiring overseas. So
Oh, same.
Mm,
God,
mm.
I know. There's really nowhere else I really want to go. I've been researching, the AZT and HIV, the first treatment, and I didn't. So this was a game changer. I don't know, Carol. I don't even know if I've told you this because I've been so busy, but my mom doesn't have the best memory in the world, and I've every time I prompt her to tell me stuff, I learn like a new nugget. So it's like there's all these secrets that are still unraveling, and she's just like, "Oh yeah, you're on this clinical trial." Because I always thought that we were brought to another state to get tested because they didn't know how you could transmit HIV at the time, which was true. They didn't know for sure um, if my brother and I had it or not, and so we did have to get tested. But we were driving back and forth to Milwaukee, not for like these tests, but we were driving because he was on the first trial. He was on the first clinical trial for AZT. And I'm like, okay, hold on. That's a game changer. Because all this stuff in the news with like Fauci and like all it's so timely, and it's just so interesting and horrible too. Just like I've done a research paper kind of on the topic, and just like how long it took, like President Reagan at the time to even acknowledge that it was an issue, just because it was only affecting gay men and they were keeping it all quiet. But meanwhile, everyone's getting infected and dying, and it took them like 6 or 7 years to like address it formally. And so there's just so much shady stuff that I'm been looking into, and I'm kind of, I may delve deep into it for like for a book on that topic and weave that into kind of my life and where I am now. So doctor's still alive, my dad, and I found the guy who did the trial. Like, you don't mess with me. I will find you, and I won't kill you, but you're gonna tell me things. So, and Carol will be by my side the whole way.
That's amazing. You found his doctor. Oh my goodness.
excellent. Well, this has been great fun, and I will say, tomorrow when I'm my sort of like Friday afternoon after work sort of tradition thing that I do for myself is a little bit of karaoke. So I'll be busting out some Whitesnake tomorrow and thinking of you. Family Twist features original music from Cosmic Afterthoughts and is presented by Savoir Faire Marketing Communications.